So about a month ago, the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer came out, and I responded to the internet's complaints, or Spider-Man Twitter's complaints, and the video did pretty well. So I figure, well, I guess I better go see the new Spider-Man movie to double those views, hopefully. Probably not. But I am back from seeing the film. It's safe to say that Spider-Man Far From Home is nowhere near the best Spider-Man film, but it is nowhere near the worst. This is the second solo film for Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and this one genuinely feels like a Spider-Man story. It's in the little things. Like, one of the things that I really responded to was John Watts' portrayal of Parker Luck, which is a staple of Spider-Man comics. Parker Luck is whenever Peter Parker does something to try benefit himself, that something always comes around and bites him in the ass. So a great example in the Raimi trilogy is in the beginning of Spider-Man 3, when Peter gives Mary Jane some flowers at her Broadway show, and then she turns around to show him Harry's flowers, and they're like 4 times as big. In Spider-Man Far From Home, we get that Parker Luck back. You kind of saw a little bit with the Vulture twist, but that's on a bigger scale. Parker Luck is more, little inanimate things, So in this film, there's a great scene where Peter's on an airplane. They're traveling to Italy. And Peter has a crush on Mary Jane, or MJ, as the film refers to her. And Peter tells Ned, look, I need to go swap seats with Betty. Like, can you swap seats with me? Can I go sit next to MJ? And so Ned gets up and basically tells Mary Jane that Peter has a perfume allergy. And so then, the teacher hears of it, and then the teacher goes and sits next to Peter, and MJ moves and sits next to this other attractive dude that also likes MJ. So it comes around and bites him in the ass, and it's very funny. It's something that the MCU Spider-Man was missing. He was missing that sort of mundane, average kid problems, and this movie really does deliver on that, and I'm really happy about that. So one of the criticisms that I've read online, and some of my friends actually have the same criticism, but the way the film opens, in my eyes, the beginning of this movie is probably the funniest thing in the MCU. The way the movie opens with In Memoriam in Comic Sans is just, it's so perfect. That whole opening, I think it's a minute long with really low quality images of the Vision and little ripple transition effects and just lens flares and the fucking Getty images. Everything about that is great.
Okay. To those of you...
Whenever the movies focus on the students, they're great. They're fucking perfect little Spider-Man movies when they're focused on the hilarity of high school and high school students in general. Everything in Homecoming with the kids was fucking funny. Everything in Far From Home with the kids is funny, but this time there's a heart to it. It's not just comedy for the sake of comedy. There is a deeper level to it all. I love what Ned and Betty have going on. I thought that was incredibly funny and very accurate to how high school relationships are. Betty and Ned notice that they have one thing in common and suddenly they're in a relationship. It's perfect, genuinely. You couldn't have done that in a better way. One thing that I've always felt with Spider-Man more than any other superhero is that the relationships, or the romantic relationships in Spider-Man films and Spider-Man TV shows and whatever, should always be the most realistic it can be. As a director, as a writer, if you make a Spider-Man film, you should always focus the most on Peter Parker's relationships, because that is the most important part of that character. His relationships with people are what define him as a character. And the way in this movie, he's constantly trying to protect those he loves, and the way that builds a relationship with MJ is just really genuine, despite the fact that, they're a giant elemental monsters going on. It's still like a really human story, I think. I think that their banter is really cute. It sort of reminded me of the Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone back and forth from the first Amazing Spider-Man. You know, there's that sort of, that unspoken thing with high school relationships.
Hot dog.
Mysterio is a divisive villain, I would say. I feel as if he's missing a certain layer. I think Vulture is a better villain, just because Vulture, there was a real menacing aspect to him. That scene in the car in Homecoming is so sinister and so good. And then with Far From Home, Mysterio, he's trying to be that mentor figure, and he's obviously playing Peter for his emotions and all that. And that's great. That when that was going on, it was really cool and really well done, and Jake Gyllenhaal sells it 100%. But the twist fell a little flat for me, just because I don't think Peter responded in the way that I think he would have, or he should have. Peter Parker in general, even if you look at the comic books, he does it all the time. He's always looking to fill a void. If you look at Spider-Man comic books in general, a lot of the best stories have to do with Peter Parker looking for a father figure of some kind. And I think that Mysterio should have been more of that. I think it should have been more like, you betrayed me, I fucking hate you. You know what I mean? Like, there should have been a real crushing aspect to it. And there wasn't. It was really like, oh no, he betrayed me, better go stop him, you know? And it works for the movie. Like, I don't hate the movie because of that. But I just think that it's things like that differentiate a fantastic Spider-Man movie and a pretty good one. The action sequences with Mysterio are great. Mysterio as a character is very visual. Up until that point in the film, I was like, well, I don't think they've done enough with Mysterio. I think you should have more illusions. And then they go and do that scene, and it completely blows my fucking mind how they did that. It was just so good, so well done from a visual effects standpoint. Incredible stuff. The little Amazing Spider-Man 121 reference with the Mary Jane falling down and Spider-Man jumping to Weber, fucking great. You know, Mysterio A, Mysterio B, they don't connect as well as I think the film thinks they do. So when, you know, he betrays him, when Peter confronts him at the end of the film, it's not as emotional as I think it should be. You gotta remember, this is a guy who literally played on the emotions of a 16-year-old kid. Like, he should be broken by this. You know, this guy was pretending to be like Tony Stark to him. That should upset this version of Peter Parker more than it does, I think.
Miss Brandt? Yes? Get me a violin. You're fired.
There's not really much that I dislike about the film. You know, it's not really the kind of film that you can dislike, I guess, because it's just such a sweet little movie. I hate giving a movie the benefit of the doubt because it's funny and sweet. But this film really is one of those cases where it's just a nice little movie. Like, it's a cute story of Peter Parker finally becoming his own superhero, donning the Spider-Man suit that he creates. I mean, obviously, there's a bit of help from Tony Stark's incredible science and incredible creations, but Peter still makes the suit physically. So, you know, when he wears that red and black suit, it's like, shit, yeah, we finally got Spider-Man. Like, this is the MCU Spider-Man. This is Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Spider-Man won't let me take any more pictures. You've turned the whole city against him.
A fact I'm very proud of. Now, get your pretty little portfolio off my desk before I go into a diabetic coma.
We got J. Jonah Jameson back. Holy shit. I kind of knew about it before I saw the film, just because fucking J.K. Simmons showed up at the premiere. But seeing him on screen again as J. Jonah Jameson was just, it's perfect. It's one of those things that, like, he was so great in that role that if you were to cast anyone else, it would be impossible to replicate that. When you read JJ, you just think J.K. Simmons. When you watch the cartoons and it's not his voice, it seems like an impression.
Daily Bugle's a top-tier multi-platform news organization. Call me back when you can grow facial hair.
I have zero problem with them bringing him back because fuck it, he's the best. About the scene though, there's a few little issues I have with this scene. As I said, I think this should have been the very end of the film. I don't think this should have been a post-credit scene. Not that it really matters because people stay to the end of these movies anyway, but I think that this is the proper ending of the film because it'd be a direct parallel to the end of Homecoming, in which Aunt May discovers that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. The end of Far From Home, the world discovers that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. I just think that it was a little stupid to put it as a post-credit scene, but at the same time, I don't specifically think that this is really going to have a lasting effect on the franchise just because, and this is just my theory here, because if you look at the Daily Bugle and you listen to what the news anchor says before he passes over to JJ, he says that this video leak is coming from the controversial website, the Daily Bugle. So to me, that sort of indicates that the Daily Bugle isn't really a respected place. It's not like the New York Times or something like that. So I don't really think that people are going to believe that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And I actually think that that's going to be the plot of the third film, that JJ is going to be probably the main villain with Scorpion as like his, the body to JJ's brains, if that makes sense. And he's going to try prove that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Just like the cartoon show, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure that happens in the cartoon. Or the comic book. Maybe I'm getting confused. I don't really think that's the reveal, because I feel like that's a really major thing to reveal at the very end of a film. That seems more like something you do in the middle of a third film, perhaps. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Captain America. I love celebrating this great nation on 4th of July. But trust me, there's nothing patriotic about illegal fireworks.
But look, Spider-Man Far From Home, I thought was a thoroughly enjoyable movie. I have nowhere near as many problems with it as I imagine a lot of people are going to have. I've come to the realization, and I said this in my last Spider-Man video, but there is no definitive Spider-Man. The MCU Spider-Man is just another version. He's just a different take. And at this point, you're either on board or you're not. If you don't like this Spider-Man, stop fucking tweeting about him. If you love this Spider-Man, keep tweeting about him. Fuck people that come into your mentions telling you you're wrong. And fuck people who love this Spider-Man going into other people's mentions and telling them they're wrong. Just, this whole debate is so lame. And I wanted my video to end it, but it ended it for like a day. And then it started up again. Let's not make the Spider-Man fan base, like the Star Wars one, where people sort of cringe, or the Ghostbusters franchise. Let's just not do that, where like people cringe whenever you mention those franchises because they know the fucking man babies that sit behind the keyboard discussing those topics.
Pizza time.
In the end, Spider-Man Far From Home is certainly not my favorite Spider-Man movie. Off the top of my head, I could probably rank them all for you now, rather than making a whole video about that just to get more clicks. So, number one, we still got Spider-Man. Alright, well that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on the topics of Spider-Man, you can check out some of these videos over here. Go see Spider-Man Far From Home. Go, enjoy it. It's great fun. Bring your little brothers. Make sure they go to the fucking toilet before the movie starts, because I had to take my little brother to the toilet and it was a fucking disaster. Bye-bye.